We are now going to start our track 3 on invest in nursing, recruiting or retaining.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We have to be on track, right? Because we have to have a gastronomical affair soon. So please get in and take your seat, please.
If not, lunch at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, as Bindu ma'am has said, if not, then lunch at 3 p.m. or later.
Moving on to our track 3, which is going to be an exciting topic, as the topic would be invest in nursing, recruiting or retaining. May I now call upon the chairperson for the track, Captain Dr. Usha Banerjee, founding member ANEI. Let's invite ma'am with a huge round of applause.
Can't hear the applause. Yeah, that's the spirit.
And the panelists, Mr. Devanand Kolatori, Regional CEO, Astadium Healthcare, AP Telangana Chapter, Mr. Mukesh Kumar Singh, Chief Finance Officer, AIG Hospitals, Hyderabad, Dr. Falakshi V. Manjirkar, Director Nursing, PD Hinduja Hospital, MRC Mahim, Mr. Krishna Autupalli, Chief Information Officer, IHH Healthcare India, Mr. Devi Prasad Dash, Head HR, Apollo Health and Lifestyle Limited, Hyderabad. Can we have all of you on the stage, please?
I'm privileged to introduce our chair for this session, yet another iconic personality from nursing fraternity who needs no introduction, our dear old Captain Dr. Usha Banerjee. Madam is Group Director Nursing Apollo Hospitals Group and founding member ANEI. She has served the Indian Military Nursing Services and worked as founding principal and group director nursing in hospitals like Manipal Hospitals, Max Healthcare and currently at Apollo Hospitals Group. She has won several national and international awards for academic excellence, leadership and contribution to healthcare, to name few of them. Winner of Life Care Award from DNA India for her significant contribution in the field of oncology, National Women Excellence Award 2008 and many more to add on. She has published more than 100 journals in national and international journals of repute, a member of Indian Nursing Council. She is known for her leadership and management style and is a very respected nursing professional in the country. A round of applause for Captain Dr. Usha Banerjee. May I now request Madam to take over the session. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that great introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I seek your attention, especially the people at the back. This is an interesting topic and it impacts each one of us seated here. And I have such a distinguished panel here representing on this wonderful topic. Nursing is not for everyone. It takes a highly intellectual, intelligent and passionate human being to be driven with purpose to heal this troubled world. We have witnessed an evolution of a revolution. Technology is taking center stage. There is proliferation of public-private partnership. There is penetration of insurance, increasing access and affordability. There is reforms, the aftermath of economic strategies like GST and now demonetization, a lot of which impacts day-to-day patient care. And in the midst of all this, there is a perfect storm brewing, the nursing attrition. You read in newspapers very often that healthcare is in the critical intensive care state. Ladies and gentlemen, with this mission of Swasth Bharat, the Prime Minister Yojana for a Healthy India, Heal by India, Heal for India, and the kind of statistics which we just saw in the morning presented by Ms. Srilata, I'm not going to revisit the numbers, but each one of us know here today that the nursing attrition has become a big cause of concern to each one of us. We also know that the healthcare labor force, especially the nursing workforce, is so critical to the clinical outcomes, to safety, to quality, to accreditations, to regulation, and even to the practice of clinicians, to the reputation and reimbursement of the organization. There's no doubt about it. Today, the nursing shortage has reached crisis proportions, and it is a global shortage. And today we are the largest exporters. While we take great pride that our nurses are all across the world, how do we run healthcare in our country? How? Isn't it call for an urgent action? I personally feel this decades of neglect is why we are faced with such an acute shortage here today. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of introducing my worthy panelists here, whom I have not spoken to before, unlike general conversations. And I'm going to have candid conversations. Let's be honest, let's talk the truth. Let us not hide behind facts here today. And we all know this shortage is having a virtual stranglehold, and it's driving increasing cost and reducing our performance. There is no statistics to be presented here, but that's the truth. So we have with us a very distinguished Mr. Devanand Kolutari. Is that the name? I'm sorry if I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Yeah, the CEO of Aster Prime Hospitals, Hyderabad. What a pleasure for me to be talking to a CEO who matters in every matter of the hospital, and especially the nursing workforce, because I generally see CEOs not really owning up the workforce. It becomes the nursing head's responsibility. So some good questions coming up for you, sir. Thank you. All right. You have been given the best CEO of the year 2020 by the Indian Chamber of Commerce. So I look at learning so much from you, and I will probably have some great take-home lessons which I can implement in the Apollo Group. Mr. Mukesh Kumar Singh, my welcome to you, Chief Finance Officer. Honestly, I have very difficult times with Chief Finance Officers because they are people who all of us have. So we have a unanimous forum that is going to be probably asking you more questions than I do. So
hopefully we'll change the perspective.
Okay, great. I think each one of us advocate for our professions, and we bring to table an amalgamation of thoughts. But honestly, I feel Chief Finance Officers are the biggest impediments when it comes to nursing. Sorry to say that. I don't mean that to you, but this is our experience. So thank you so much for your great leadership for 13 plus years and across multiple industries. It's a great honor for us to have you here with us. What do I say? I share the same table with Dr. Falakshi Mandareka, so you might not have great tough questions, but you will have more of my sympathies and empathies. So you are the lucky one in this entire lot. Well, Falakshi is a known nursing professional across the country, a PhD in nursing, and she's done a master's at BSc, and she works for the most reputed institution, Hinduja. And I just want to announce that Hinduja recently has increased the salaries for the fresher nurses. 50,000, is the closing amount. So all those who want to leave your hospitals and go to Hinduja, welcome, but then stay in the country for more than many years, because people like Falakshi have really taken this leadership to that level to get what the nurses should. So I don't have to mention any further. She's got lots of awards, and she's one of the most reputed nursing professionals and a dear friend of mine. Mr. Krishna Avutapalli, for the Chief Information Officer. I think you play a big role in the entire healthcare system. It's all about information today. So I'm sure I'm going to take home some lessons from you. You've got the best people manager. You don't look like you have 27 years of experience, but your documents say so. So congratulations for that, and thank you for being here with us. Mr. Devi Prasad is yet to join. He's the head HR, Apollo Health and Lifestyle. My colleague from the Apollo Enterprise. I'm sorry that he's late here. I'm sure he's held up with some business exigencies. So to the organizing committee, I would definitely want the 1 hour for our panelists. Lunch could be a little late for us, no problem. All right. We can eat less, we can probably eat delayed, no problem. My first question and the most interesting, Devi is coming here. Miss Devi, you arrive at the right time. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start our round of discussions with a very big hand to the panelists here who have undertaken this commitment to answer tough questions without being prepared for what they have to say. So our topic for today is investing in nursing. You know, our profession was founded 200 years ago. We celebrated the Florence Nightingale's birth anniversary, and unfortunately 150 years down the line we're talking about investing in nursing. Right, that's a sad state, but nevertheless it's time to begin. Investing in nursing, recruiting or retaining, that's the topic that we have. So let's go for a round of introductory remarks on this topic. Short, sweet. I know I tend to talk more, so we can start with Devi also, no problem, no hierarchy here. Yes.
Namaste, good afternoon, am I audible?
Yes.
Please give me a huge round of applause.
Is that for coming late or is it for arriving just in time? It's for arriving just in time or arriving late?
See, I need this beforehand because afterward there is no guarantee. Alright, at the outset I'd like to thank Ms. Shubhada for inviting me for this program. And it was a surprise to know Madam Usha is also here. So it's always a pleasure to meet her in person. So thank you so much, and thank you so much to the organizers for coming up with something which is so innovative and creative. Someone very knowledgeable once told me the best way to be part of a panel discussion is to sit up, speak up and very quickly wrap up. So what it means is it will have a good beginning, a very quick ending and nothing in between. So I understand now all of you know what you can expect from me. Now,
this is typical HR language, okay?
being in the nursing event, without saying 4 lines about nurses, I can't start talking on the topic. So let me have 4 lines for you in Hindi. हर पर्वत पर मणि मानिक नहीं होते, हर पर्वत पर मणि मानिक नहीं होते, हर हाथी के माथे पर मुक्तामणि नहीं होते, हर जंगल में चंदन के पेड़ नहीं होते, और हर देश में आप जैसे नर्सिंग प्रोफेशनल्स नहीं होते.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't get lured. The questions are yet to arrive. Right.
All right. Now coming back to the topic, because I know we will have positive time here. So it's very difficult for an HR guy to answer whether it is recruiting or retaining. You are putting me in a spot, and that too under the surveillance of a camera, right? So, all right. The answer here is, let me throw some quick statistics so that I look knowledgeable in front of all of you. I've done some study before coming here. So if you see the nursing population, but if you talk about nursing count to the population that we have in India today, if I have to give you some statistics, 1.7 to 1.96 nurses per 1,000 population is the current number that India has today. I'm talking from a country standpoint, which is falling behind what WHO says. WHO says we need to have minimum 3 nurses per 1,000 population. That means there is already a supply and demand, issue here, right? Second thing is, when you talk about recruiting and retaining, let me give you a statement here. Retaining is the new recruiting, right? Retaining is the new recruiting. And how do we retain and recruit? Retain and recruit happens through a process, right? It's a journey, it's not a destination, right? It's an engagement process. And when you have an engagement, I'll give you a very high level 3C and 3S framework. 3C talks about connect, communicate and collaborate. 3S is if you connect, communicate, and collaborate, then it helps you in staying, striving, and doing surviving and excellence in the organization. So it creates a platform for you. It gives you an opportunity, to have a journey with the organization where you excel in the organization itself. So this is only a very high level heads up. I can go on, but I'll take I should have some answers left behind so that I can communicate for other questions that will be asked by ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was quick and nice. Though you've left me a little confused at this moment, we'll come back to you with more details. Yes.
Okay. Hello. Are you able to hear me? Yes. So I think you are all probably surprised again. How am I? Hello. Is it okay? So what? Is that okay now? So again, I think the surprise passes over to me, to all of you, that how come a technology person sitting in this and talking about recruitment in detail? So I think if we just take a parallel of this whole thing, what I think we are actually have already started our journey into a modern era. Meaning we are changing our technology in such a way where there is a ecosystem that we are building, and it should have a touch point to every other actor or a person, whether he actually does a job or he wanted to go about and doing any activity. So there is a touch point that we are building. So which means that we are entering into an era and thinking about doing a lot of transformation, right from a process toward technology and so on and so forth. So what I think it is making a way that I will be able to get the information, be able to make certain decisions at a level that anyone in the situation to tackle. So what happens in case of nursing? I think nursing, it goes into a very vital and important and key role in really reading such data to be able to do it. And what data that they are reading is about patient care. So I am here actually to really support what I think technology will play in a role while getting the best nursing resource, and also ensuring that how do we retain such talent and build it, and it becomes more easier for person to deliver patient care. I think these are all important aspects because they all really connect with each other. So recruitment and retention both just go hand in hand. And then in the whole medical ecosystem, nursing play a critical role. Therefore, technology play a critical role. I think I am here for just supporting that argument, and also really say what I think we must do to really attract the talent as well as retain the talent.
Great. Yeah, we'll just quickly go around to the next.
Good morning. Hope I'm audible. Yeah. So it's a very, like my fellow panelist said, Mr. Devi said, I usually go to any panel doing some research. I never knew about the moderator, so it's a tough spot because I was trying to reach to her. So now I know that it's a deliberate attempt to, squeeze us. And I wanted to know what is the flow, what is the kind of questions or, the broad level. There was no connect at all. So it's going to be, so the only good thing with the panel discussion is that, if I don't know, I can just push it to Devi. So that he is the best person to answer this. So that's the only relief I have at this point of time. But at the same time, this topic is something which, is of great interest to administrators, not only to the CEOs, but also to the nursing fraternity, the leaders who are all sitting here. So I was telling, when we were having a tea break, I was telling the hospitals in India will have a shake today, since the entire, the nursing leaders are here. So they said, no, there is a second line we already have. So, like Devi mentioned, recruiting has now transformed. Basically, the retaining part has, as per me, this is my view, I'm still saying, but I would also like to know from the audience on how you perceive it, before we go into deliberate, that will make our job a little bit easy. We are going to confuse Ms. Usha actually. So I just want to get a poll, how many of you feel recruiting is the most important part? Can you just raise your hand? In nursing, invest in nursing, recruiting is the most important point. Please raise your hand. Those who agree.
Yes.
And those who agree that retention is the most important.
Yes. Both.
See, so we got our answer now. So we should talk on one more. But now, see, retention is the way to recruit. So that's how we are looking at it now. There are a lot of things which has come in, the new developments in nursing, how to retain people, how to, have not only nursing, but nursing being the biggest, manpower in any hospital. That is a very, very important thing to retain nurses. There are multiple things I think during the course of discussion will come. I don't want to take much time, but I think it's a fantastic topic to discuss. And somebody who's really investing in nursing is sitting next to me. He's the one who's investing actually. So he's the best person to talk about the investing part. So we'll talk about more of the administration part. Okay, so we'll have more discussions in the due course. So over to.
I'm glad I'm sitting on this side of the panel. I don't have to answer questions because I don't have the answer. And as the CEO mentioned, every time I walk up to my CEO, he says, how many of you are for this, how many of you are for that, and then the entire meeting is hijacked. So I just request the audience not to fall prey to such strategies. Thank you. Sorry, that's on a lighter note. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I was expecting a warmer response because that will be the return, right?
Yeah. He only talks about return on investment. Come on. So give him a big warm hello. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, I have a slightly different opinion. The thing is, do we have a choice between retention and recruitment? We don't have a choice, right? However, we have to work towards getting a healthy balance between these two, right? There is a huge demand of nurses, as our previous panelists told about. 50% more is required to just meet the WHO minimum standard, right? 50% more. So just think about the demand which is there in this country alone, and then we are also catering to different countries around the world, right? We are supplying nurses to them. So there is a huge demand, and that's how people will need to move. One, to meet their career goals, they have to move, right? Every new hospital needs a new nursing head. So we have to work around creating a healthy balance between retention and recruitment, so that we are in a continuous supply of enough nurses, well-trained nurses, to run every hospital the way it should be run. Right? And I think I will start my comment with this.
Thank you. I think I'm the last one to comment, and I would like to start by making a statement saying that recruitment and retention, the basic relation is like, filling water in a glass which is leaking. You keep on filling, but it never is going to, fill. And that's what's happening in nursing. Yes, retention is important, and we need to, strategize and find out various ways to check out how we can better our retention. Now, who's the person who's supposed to do it? The nursing head of a hospital. This is an issue not of a single hospital in Hyderabad or Mumbai or Kerala. This is an issue of each and every institute in every city in our country. So are we really talking about a state issue, or are we talking about a national issue? So if we say it's a national issue, that as a country we need to better prospects for our nurses in our country, so our nurses don't leave our country and they sort of are better or happy to work. Are they good nurses? They are some of the excellent nursing personnel on the globe. Like when we are talking about, since morning we have been speaking about nurses leaving India and doing excellent work somewhere in some other country. So they are good nurses. So why can't we do something to retain us? So we are not really talking about an issue which is only a national issue, because currently if I sit on a global forum, with other developing countries, all the other developing countries would also say the same thing. I mean, Bhutan would say the same thing, Bangladesh would say the same thing. Philippines is the first, group of countries who started with the heavy retention issue. I mean, in other countries like the South African countries, Jamaica, so everyone is basically sailing in the pool. It's really a global issue. So it's high time that we all come together and take a decision on creating a strategy to better policies for our nurses in our own countries, so that we sort of become rich healthcare providers, because our nurses are good and we would want to see that goodness in best patient outcomes in our own country, in our own city, in our own hospital. And I'm sure that's something which all of you are looking.
Yes, I think so. Now, with that introductory remark, I think we will set up questions. I'm very glad to be a part of this entire nursing leadership, especially the members of the ANE who have really served this country with passion, who have demonstrated leadership in this healthcare space. And today, I think it is because each one of them seated here that India is proud of its healthcare outcomes, and we are positioned in the world's map as a global healthcare destination. Unfortunately, the very young nurses who step into the profession are aspiring to stay in the country for less than 1 year, and they have stepped into the profession just because they have the avenues to go away. And there's that much nursing leaders can do, but there's so much more that organizations can do. While we all advocate for greener pastures, we are Indians. We want our nurses in India to be looked after, paid the best, and they serve the country. So for me, the first question is to Mr. Devanand here. You agree that we still have a very traditional, orthodox, paternalistic ecosystem, and nurses are subjugated to the bottom of the pyramid. However, we may like it or we may not like it, that's the honest truth. There is coexistence of multiple lines of authority, rigid hierarchical rules, rule-bound structures across their practice, nurses doing much more beyond their scope of service. Very, very intimidating for the young nurses here today, because for them, they are a generation apart and they look for a better avenue. So why in a hospital, I'm not talking about any particular hospital, but the larger ecosystem, nurses are not appropriately positioned in the advisory committees, commissions, boards, policy making. Some of us have found our way, we speak up and we are there. So do you think this is a problem for retention, recruitment, and allowing people to stay? Can we get better?
Definitely, no doubt about it. It's a very difficult question to answer because it's a very, very vast topic. In terms of retention or the issues that are faced by the nurses in hospitals, you are the best people to know about it because you deal that every day. But you are also responsible for it, partly. Because when you look at the satisfaction of nurses, whenever a study is done, one of the major things that comes up in dissatisfaction is the harassment of the superiors. So you are also partly responsible for the retention part. I'm sorry to use a very sarcastic comment in the beginning, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that an organization, should provide to a nurse, which is not being given, or the importance that we all preach in multiple forums, which doesn't come in practical in the flows. Always, any issue. See, the problem here is everything ends at the CFO's table. Ultimately, in a hospital to get sanctioned, every blame in a hospital goes to the nurse. Because the patient is only meeting the nurse. That is the point where the nurses are getting more and more mentally and physically completely harassed. Because they are seeing the nurse more often. The complaints are all given on the nursing team. Even though pipe doesn't work, the nurse is blamed, because they see nursing more often. But I would have to say a different perspective also here. This is my personal opinion. I am not giving any my organization's view. I have seen a deterioration in the nursing education. When you look at the standard of colleges that has, mushroomed in India, in our country, the quality of nurses coming into a hospital has become very, very, the quality of nurses has become very optimal, I would say. You would know that, you have to spend a lot of time for a graduate BSc nurse who's coming to the hospital to train the basic skills which is supposed to be part of the curriculum. And by the time you train them, 2 years, they are out, they're gone. But why is it happening? One, obviously everyone works for money, even the CEO works for money, CFO also works for money. You have to take money to our family, you have to take care of our family, you have to live a good life. Ultimately it's monetary. Primary concern is monetary. And will India match a Western country in terms of monetary? It is a very long shot at this point of time. Basically because of two things. Because of our population, second, our economy. In any other country outside India, the Western, European or any other parts of the world, most of the public are insured. So there is no burden on the hospital to give a treatment. It's more or less the insurance companies pay for the treatment. Here the margins are skewed. Sorry to use the word margins, EBITDA and all. I know that it is not something which is to be told in this forum. But yes, obviously when you buy a car, you can buy always a car, but for fuel every time you have to pay. So to run a hospital, the investment has to come back. So there has to be a margin, otherwise the vehicle will not move. So to get that margin, from where to get? You can't increase your rates beyond a particular point of time. You can't increase your salaries beyond a particular point of time. You are not dictating the number of patients coming to your hospital. The doctors or any other manpower cost always goes higher. So there's always that squeezing of margin which doesn't let any organization to increase, even if they want to. I'm very happy to hear your case. It should be a role model. I personally vouch that it should be a role model in India which should be adopted. But many organizations have this problem of margin, where if it is especially a investor-driven company in terms of listed companies or any other companies, it's an investor-driven company. You have to answer to the investors in terms of the margins. So obviously there will be a cutthroat, cost cutting, which I think my colleague will be, every day he'll be facing the same issue. So these are two people, he increases, he blocks. Okay, even if he wants to increase, he blocks. So that's the whole thing. And the CEO, even if those two approach, CEO blocks. So that happens. So because we are all driven by different thing, because of the economies of the country, one. So monetary level, to reach that point, this is my personal view, will take a longer time. So what within our limitations that we can do is to give a better quality of work, better work-life balance. These are all theories you would have heard many times. In your organization themselves, CEOs and administrators will come and say that I want to bring a work-life balance to all nurses. Let us do some de-stressing activities, some job enrichment activities, some games, this thing. But these are all one time. It's not going to reduce your stress or, we also are aware. So it's a very tough question to answer because it's a very broad subject. But I want to restrict because other panelists also have to speak. I would see there should be a clear focus on the education level. That is my agenda. At the education level, the nursing colleges have to really improve their quality of teaching, and that will increase the number of good quality nurses coming out. That is first thing. Because what happens now otherwise, the quality of nurse matters a lot. If a quality of nurse is not good, the quality of care is going to get compromised. Obviously, one nurse who is very efficient can do a kind of work which non-efficient two nurses may be required to do the same work. So obviously, and somebody who doesn't know, you will not have confidence to give a good serious work to that person. So that is the first and foremost agenda. As nursing leaders, you also will be part of nursing colleges. So that is something which I think we should drive very, very passionately. Increase the number of colleges, also increase the quality or improve the quality of the nursing education. Second thing, yes, we have a very good role model now. I think this should be a movement. There are union-driven movements. Okay, there will be people who are probably part of unions also, nursing unions. But it should be part of the management-driven or the nursing leadership-driven movements. That has never come. So I would say that nursing leaders also, it is high time that you should also fight. I don't know how hard it was. You should share your experience in convincing your management in getting. We're very interested to know. But there should be nursing leader driven thing to happen. Third and most important thing, I said, we have to look at a mirror and see whether we all sitting in this room, including me and you, are we providing the right environment for these nurses to work in our hospital? That is the most important thing. I read somewhere very recently that, a personal note saying that you are doing a good work can make a nurse stay for 1 more year. Just one. How many are we giving? Like a simple letter or a chocolate in a day, going to the floor and appreciating. We say some HRs, yes, very passionate HRs have taken it up, but it should all be movements. It's all human emotions. So we have to work on that. So probably I will stop here. Other discussions I can always contribute, but I feel there's a serious issue. If we don't do something now, it will be very late for India to claim or boast of our nursing, skill force, because no nurse is going to be here. It's going to be very tough for every hospital. Now we are not realizing the problem. Next 5 years we are going to have a serious concern in India related to nurses. We will be running around to get somebody. Now there's poaching of high profile doctors, there will be poaching of high profile nurses. That's going to come very soon. So I'll stop here. I want to hear from the fellow panelists and then we can discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. That honest confession of how you have projected the issue. And I think one point that strikes very strongly is that we are to blame. He did mention that, and I would take that yes, because I know there are people who are passionate and who have driven this far, but the entire nurses of the country, right from the time they step into the profession, have to also take ownership for this profession. So all the young people seated there, while you have greener pastures, there's something you need to give back to the profession in this country. And you have to also lead and walk that path. I also agree that there is a huge amount of harassment probably at the mid-level. The top leadership might be great, but then there's a lot of cleaning up that needs to be done at the middle level, and I think all of us have to get back to doing that. And there is this general statement, why pay when they don't stay? Why pay when they're really not so qualified? So I think you bring factors back to education, and I'm glad members of the ANE are always looking at an outreach program to connect back to the institutions and improve the level of education. And I think we had 2 speakers today, Ms. Bindu and Rajni Peters, speaking about that academic clinical gap which needs to be bridged. So I think there's a whole lot of work that we are trying to undertake. But I think largely organizations have to be sensitive to the fact that there will be no nurses in this country and we really need to do something now. Okay, I'll cross over to Dr. Falakshi. Falakshi, just wanted to know that you are running a sensitive operation, you have high-end clinical work, and how difficult is it for you to manage with young nurses, fresh from school, who have never seen such kind of complex clinical milieu, and then are expected to generate in the clinical outcomes that your institution is so proud of. How difficult is that?
It's extremely difficult. Yes, I agree with Captain Usha Banerjee that this is a big challenge. A large number of nurses coming into an environment which is a challenging environment, and when we are talking about challenging, it's medically challenging. See, today they have to, shoulder to shoulder move along with a medical professional who have advanced. The advancement is so much that today, an orthopedic surgeon is not only an orthopedic surgeon, he's basically a surgeon who says that I'm only doing microsurgery and I only work with fingers under the microscope. So, that's the precision surgery which is taking place, and he needs an expert nurse to assist him because he really can't go ahead. And this happens in each and every, whether it's like, transplant surgeries, whether it's children's robotic cardiac surgery. So, we are really going to talk about, issues which we have advanced. And as a country, we are very proud of, because today these conditions can be treated in our own hometown. You really don't have to go abroad. They can be done like, in Mumbai, Hyderabad, South India. There are many institutes where we can do it. So what is the challenge for a nursing leader like me and many others? When these new nurses come in, we need to have an investment policy We need to have a developmental policy. We need to have something which allows the nurse who enters the hospital to acclimatize her ability. Because as we know, all 5 fingers can't be the same. We have been, speaking that, okay, some of the nurses come from institutes which may not be, really remarkably good institutes, and these nurses may not be remarkable. But what is extremely important is, how do I pick up what is good in a nurse and what is not good in a nurse? So there are nurses who may be excellent in a certain type of ability. So the first policy which our nurse leader needs to, understandably come to a conclusion is, all nurses are not the same. There are some nurses who may excel in certain activities. There may be some other nurses who may excel in some other actions or, skills or say abilities, and that needs to be picked up. You need a good group of managerial, highly educated nurses who are able to pick up these abilities and skills through competent tests and various devices which can be used to pick up these skills. Secondly, who is responsible to develop these nurses? The responsibility is with the institute. You need to have on the job multiple training and developmental programs and evaluation programs which tells us that these are the good abilities which we can sort of, allow these things to manage. You need to have a multidisciplinary committee, because in the end, unless and until the medical professional is a part of your, development or assessment committee, he's not going to be so happy to say that, okay, this new nurse can be a part of my team. So you need the actions ready. And what is more important is to really, allow the nurse some amount of comfort level, because when she's coming to your institute, she may have started her, career in an institute where she has not seen many things. Like today, without a software, you can't really, work in a diagnostic department or even in a basic nursing department. You need to know how to, use a lot of these complicated devices. So you need to have some amount of breathing time, and that's possible only by having an additional number of nurses over your standard number of nurses. So if your nursing requirement is 200, you need to have a backup of additional 50 nurses, because when these nurses come, they are not ready to step into the shoes of someone else and start getting overworked. Today, when a nurse says that, see, I don't think so, I'm able or I'm capable of giving this complex drug, you have to say, it's okay if you don't know, don't do it. I have someone else to do it. But at the same time, we would want you to, develop the ability and tell me when you are ready to do it. If she wants time off, she needs to get it. She needs better working hours, and not because someone else is not there, ask her to put in some extra time. She needs better living, comfortable living accommodations. And the reason why I'm making this statement is because this is extremely common. Accommodations are provided by the hospital. But in one small room, if you're going to ask 8 nurses to reside, this is not a very comfortable, state of accommodations for a person who's put in her entire physical ability to look after a patient and work for sometimes even 10 to 11 hours. The reason why I'm saying that, on our paper, we may be working for 8 hours. But if you really look at the amount of time a nurse is spending in the hospital, she never leaves within 8 hours. Most of the time when her shift gets over, she's still there for maybe 2 or 3 hours extra to try and complete her tasks. She's not a person who just walks in. So yes, unless and until we have a proper developmental and build-up policy, you can't really help. But I think what really helps me is having that additional count of nurses so that she gets her time to develop her skills in her own time. Thanks.
Great. I think higher the speciality, higher the competency, higher is the exit of the nurse from the institution. It's very hard to retain them. So my question to the CFO sir here is, you just heard Falakshi saying that they have announced a fresher salary which is, unimaginable. And for the kind of freshers who come from the college, which Mr. Devanand just mentioned. You also heard her saying that, we need to have at least 50 more for the numbers that she's given. Historically, nursing has been seen as the cost center. When you want to recruit doctors, you want to bring in the best talent and give them a minimum guarantee, and then probably have a higher remuneration and take care of them in every which way. And she spoke about measures like actually the caregivers wanting decent facility to stay, and the exact numbers, flexible hours. So why is it that we have never kept aside a huge amount of capital to handle this issue, forecasting for the future, and treating nurses, for example, if she's doing a cardiac surgery, why can't she have a fee for service? For every surgery, she gets an incentive of 2,000 rupees, maybe paid to the patient, paid by the patient. Most of us are from private hospitals. We understand EBITDA, we understand business. So, my question here, why treat this entity, which is so critical, as a cost center and not as a revenue generator? One extra length of stay, one extra discount to a patient's bill, a few entries not entered into the bill is business loss. So why aren't we treating this workforce like this?
Very complex question. Yeah, because it's not only CFO's role. However, I will try to answer it to my capability. I think business in India is ever evolving, right? And healthcare as an organized sector is, I think, one of the latest entry into that. Otherwise, healthcare was completely unorganized. If you see yourself also, these organizations have come into existence only 3 years back, right? Similar things are happening in most of the healthcare related groups. You take nursing, physiotherapist, dentist, like everything. These are coming of age today. So it's again evolution, and I'm sure that we will have the concept of those practice nurses who will be super skilled into a specific or like sub-super specialty, and they will get that variable fee on a case-to-case basis. However, that's a journey. We still need to travel along to reach there. Because I think again what Mr. Devanand said earlier and ma'am also said about one is skill. So what kind of nurses are coming into in the system today? How much effort to make to train them in their basic skills, not about the super specialty, because that will take another 10 to 15 years for a young nurse to achieve. And I think we are on the right path and we will reach there. I have few points. I think what happens is all these issues starts with recruiting. In India and most of the hospitals, nursing recruitment is a crisis hiring. As ma'am said, bench strength, forget about bench strength, we are today short staffed. 99.95% of hospitals will have a shortage of nursing staff. They are not getting what they need. So creating a bench strength again is a distant dream, I would say. However, in AIG, I think Bindu will vouch, we are working on it. And I think slightly different way of practicing in AIG, where I don't question about salary rise. CFO, what we ask our team, whether it is clinical or nursing, we ask what's your requirement. You tell us your requirement, we'll create a budget for it.
Yes.
And that's the way we want all the hospitals to work. Similar thing happens with the doctors also. So we are in the journey that we make the nurses also respectable lot. Second thing is on the training. How do we train them? How long the training is? How do we involve them? Like many a times the nurses gets bored of training itself, right? So how do you make it interesting at the same time? For them there should be something to take away. It should not be the routine training. Most of the training in India is created for the sake of creating NABH or JCI records. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the fact, right? So let us make it more meaningful training. Third thing is again work environment. So how do we create a system where every nurse can feel a part of the organization? She should have this feeling that there is somebody who will take care of her. And this we talk about, HR talk a lot about for a lot of people. But I think for nurses, they have very small problems in their life, right? So how do we create a forum for them so that they can share? And then they feel that confidence and trust among their seniors to share those things and get solution for it, right? So for that I say that we should have micro leaders. Every nursing station which has maybe 20 to 30 nurses must have a micro leader And there are some concepts like if you have gone to Western countries, they have something called home room, small town hall, right? Where like every week for just 30 minutes or maybe 15 minutes, depending on the number of people in that team, they gather together and they talk about anything but work. So make it a habit that on Saturday or Monday morning, 15 minutes that nurse station manager talks to her nurses about how was your week, what happened in your child's birthday, right? Did you go on a trip? That creates a rapport, right? That creates a homely environment for the nurse. Even if she has a problem, she does not hesitate in coming to that leader and get it sorted out. And then the senior leadership in the nursing, they also should have a way to reach to the last nurse on the bedside. At least make it once in a quarter, once in a month, depending on your ability or time management. How do you make that last nurse confident in you that you will take care of her, take care of her needs? Last thing is the career path. If you give a clear career path to a nurse, I don't think she will look outside for opportunity.
We don't agree, but we'll take on in the conversation.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Is it fine now? So again, like career path is important. Make it a clear career path. Every nurse who is entering into the organization should know that where she can reach and what kind of capability and position is needed to reach that level. How clearly you make this, that's very important. On the role of CFO in this, see, no CFO nowadays wants only money. They know how the money comes. And for a hospital CFO, it's very important that the patient satisfaction is as high as possible to get a consistent flow of patients. So I can't be doing a cost cutting at the cost of patient satisfaction, which is largely dependent upon how my nurse is treating my patient. Because more than a doctor, I think nurse spends time with the patient and she is the first-hand caregiver. So as a CFO, what I work for is increasing efficiency, and that efficiency comes from experience, training, and a longer tenure of every staff, not only nurses, in the organization. The staff to buy the goal of organization and feeling that she is part of the journey to that goal is very important, and then only I will get the maximum ROI. Each penny spent on a productive work actually gives me multiple fold results. And I think many more CFOs and CPOs and GOs, everybody knows the importance of it. And believe me, no CFO will cut your budget if you can show an improvement in efficiency, which will result in higher revenue generation for the hospital. And I think with that, I will close my remarks.
Thank you. That's interesting. Either I get an opportunity to work in AIG or you come to Apollo Hospital. Will make things very easy for us. And for Bindu, I think there's a strong case in point. It's in public. Lot of questions to Mr. Devi for me. Right, you heard them saying career path, HR, work-life balance. There's so much, and I'm glad human resource has now taken up a lot of initiatives in many hospitals, from personal management to human resource management, right? Despite all that, nurses are not staying. They just come for 1 year and they're gone. So, and when it comes to cost cutting, manpower numbers, the brutal reality is, nursing is always at the corner, right? So, HR thinks that, we can manage with fresh nurses because anyway, clinical outcomes are generated. And it's an insane job for the nursing head. Nobody wants to be a nursing head in many hospitals. because everything is on them, whether it's errors, outcomes, A-loss, it is EBITDA, it is accreditation. It's huge. And unfortunately, people like us have still stayed back, though we had greener pastures. So, Mr. Devi, the entire question of this whole retention, recruitment, over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes.
How many of you like stories?
Stories?
बचपन की stories जब दादी माँ सुनाती थी. So let me tell you a short story. A father and daughter were playing in a seashore. The daughter was 5 years old. A big wave came in and both of them got drenched. The little girl is telling her father, Papa, Papa, don't worry, you will not get drowned. And the father was very curious. How come, beta? Mark the answer. The daughter replies, because I am holding your hand. Unfortunately, we feel that we are driving the organization. Actually, it is not. It is you who are driving the organization.
You have stirred up a hornet's nest here. Right, this gag is not easy to get away with. And this is the collective cause of the women who led this institution. Typical HR answer, right?
Alright, now let me come to the second part of what I want to say. I'm trying to connect it to that. I'll put a small humor in this with due permission from our moderator. A patient goes to a nurse and says, Nurse, I'm having pain in my body. If I'm touching my head, it's paining. If I'm touching my finger, it's paining. If I'm touching my legs, it's paining. If I'm touching my heart, it's paining. The nurse examines and says, no, actually your finger, you have a fractured finger. So wherever you're touching, the pain is coming from that place. Right? So what I'm trying to tell you here is, can we identify the pain point in the organization? The pain point from AIG will be very different from Apollo, very different from, the organizations are unique, right? So is the workforce. So it is a prime responsibility of the organization to identify the pain points. And based on the pain points, you need to arrive at a solution. And second thing is when you spoke about skill, ma'am, I'm asked a question on that. Interestingly, the word skill is very phenomenal. If you delete S from skill, it kills. Right? So we talk about skill, but the moment we don't develop, it kills. And on the other hand, we want to grow, we want to make money. But remember, in learning, it's earning. If you remove L from learning, it's earning, right? So learning and earning has to go hand in hand. So if you have to focus on skills, if you have to focus on learning, that has to go hand in hand. Third point which I'm talking about is extremely important. Okay, let me give you a short story on this also.
You're not giving answer, only story.
That is an interesting point. So that you can give the answer, I give you the essence. So during the COVID time, there was a person who used to sell vegetables. And suddenly what he did is, he called his customer or the owner. Sir, would you like to buy eggs? His owner was very curious. Your core business or skill is to sell vegetables. How come we are talking about eggs? His answer is, sir, my core skill is adaptability. So first point I spoke about is pain point, identifying. Second I spoke about is the mindset. Third point I'm talking about is adaptability. So the way the organization has a responsibility in terms of recruiting or retaining, it involves multiple things. For example, how do you ensure that you're creating an inclusive workplace? When compassion meets care, that's why nurses are, they're in the organization, right? It goes hand in hand. And the organization needs to ensure that they provide a tender, loving care approach, right? Whether it's towards the patients or it's towards your employees. You can't differentiate or treat them indifferently. And for doing that, there's a series of things that needs to be done. It is not only one thing, and depending upon the solution. For example, if you talk about how many of us go and back, let's say a nurse is doing a surgery, can she say that, oh, my duty time khatam ho gaya 6 baje, let me leave the patient in the OT theatre and let me move out? She cannot do that, right? She needs to complete that task. But how many of us go back and put a pat on her back and say that, hey, great job done? So what I'm trying to tell you is, you may have different ways of, appreciating the employees in the workforce. But appreciation is critical, because intangible benefits are more important than tangible benefits. Tangible benefits are more like a silent appreciation of the work done. Whether it's talk about the money or the career growth, all that we're talking today, these are all tangible. But trust me, if the intangible is more, then it takes over the tangible with time. Because tangible will grow in a substantial way, year on year it will grow. But what keeps you rooted with the organization is the intangible benefit. Do you feel empowered? Do you feel valued? When you walk into the organization, do you feel that this is a place that I want to get into? Do you feel that this is a place? Because nursing is a very noble profession. God has been very kind, right? And all of us, we have an opportunity in healthcare also, where we can serve the patient and still get paid, right? It goes hand in hand. It's a very noble profession. So it's an opportunity for us to create conducive policies, inclusivity, coming up with, giving them an opportunity in terms of where they can. If let's say somebody is a ward nurse, can we have a framework where they can, instead of looking for another job outside the organization, we have something where they get an ICU environment? I'm giving an example, like coming up with a lot of options which can help them to stay with the organization. Compensation, career growth, care is something I think, it has to be coupled with a lot of other things. It's not just only about one at a time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Devi. I work with such pedigreed HR personnel across the Apollo group, so you can understand how interesting that is. But I'm very proud that the HR departments are now looking at a lot of options to enable nurses to stay on, and there's a lot of investment going on. But it is also for the young nurses to see that. But he started at 12:45. Okay. Yeah, it's not yet 1:45. So my question to the next speaker here, Mr. Krishna, is when you talk about information technology or technology, we invest in all big technology, robotic machines, and the state of art, first of its kind, innovative, breakthrough technology. But when it comes to giving simple gadgets to nursing, there is always a question. Build, buy, invest. And nurses are still very, very manual in their jobs. So we don't seek what is available in the market. That's never the priority. Why? Why can't we do that so that our nurses are enabled to do better work?
I think most of it goes by what is the care that I am providing, and then the importance of the care actually demand a specific device that we need to bring in. I think again, it all goes back to buy versus manage. So when I say buy, I think what is the ROI. I think the CEOs of organizations obviously look at it, because when we brought in a robotic surgery, robotic system in our hospitals, I think there have been a lot of discussion around how do we really have them come in and train our nurses to really deliver the job. I think most of it goes back to how do I orient, and then I can bring in. I think technology is something that can be enabled. But what also happens is the transformation of the technology into a process require some good orientation and require some steps to really define and then go for it. I think somewhere that we would need to work together and then put up that sort of a standard operating procedure as to how do I use and adopt the technology. However, but there are other aspects that are very important which can be brought in easily without any investment per se. Is about data that we collect. I think we need to make our nursing and younger generation is so much comprehensive, and they can comprehend situations so quickly. How do I really bring in data through which that they can make decisions? I can do a care plan for nursing, and they can be able to see at a nursing station what I think I will have delivered to a patient. I obviously be able to put together based on the information that I have. I think these are easy and easy things to implement. And then we're talking about learning and development, and then how do we really make our younger generation of nursing to really come up to speed. So there are a lot of learning and platforms. I think sometimes that we focus only on static courses, but I think it should be more dynamic in nature. Whatever scenarios that we are seeing, I think should be brought into our learning and development platform. They should be made available to the fraternity, nursing fraternity, and then the assessment and all of that, and then certification that it generates. So that there has to be some system that should be in place to really make sure that nursing is able to test their ability and skill through such courses, and they get motivated. So I would say I think such things are important. The wearable devices, how much I would be able to use, I think it's important to really evaluate and then put in. So there's a lot of pressure on the cost of it. How do we really justify the cost? So I think those are challenges. I think we can get along. But I think a lot of this automation that we bring in can make nursing to be able to own and then be empowered on patient care delivery.
Great. I think nurses adapt and adopt technology the fastest in the organization, and we see the others don't use it as much. There is resistance, and I'm very certain that there is the power of AI, big data, cloud computing, virtual reality, all that can be unleashed to help nurses to give better care. So I think this is an interesting panel. We can go on and on, but we understand the constraint of time. So I just look forward to a one-line message from each of our panelists. Wonderful talking to you, very candid conversations. We could probably have a half-a-day workshop or a full-day workshop and talk about this. So just to close, a one-line message from each of you, please. Yes, the lady can go first.
Thank you, a wonderful panel. I think we've got a lot of take-home messages, and each and every one of them valuable. I would like to make one statement over here, and that is in continuation of the informatics discussion which we just had. All of us have HIS in our hospitals and we use it extremely well, right? Excellent. I come from an era where we didn't have HIS. So when HIS was introduced, it was considered to be the most difficult thing which was introduced to the hospital, and today we can't do anything about it. My last statement for the day would be, when will we get NIS? NIS is Nursing Informatics. It's extremely expensive, it's very difficult to maintain, and unfortunately we don't have anyone who has made NIS in India. So anything which has to come as an imported software system is expensive. We would like to see that day where I would like to see the informatics be nurse friendly. Let's go for NIS.
Thank you, Palakshi. Yes.
Taking a clue from ma'am, we have few EMRs now in India, but they are all in a very nascent stage. A request to all the nursing leaders here to participate in customizing it. The external or foreign systems are very difficult to adopt in India for various reasons, whether it is cost, the manpower ratios, or the workflows itself. So the request to all of you leaders is to engage in discussion with whatever EMR softwares are there today in India, work with them and then create a nursing information system. The thing is that we keep finding these new words, HIS, NIS, EMR and all. We have to finally get an integrated healthcare software or platform where every component of healthcare gets their due in terms of information, data entry and the analytics from it, and keep it as simple as possible to start. That will result into higher adaptability. Thank you.
Thank you. Your closing remarks.
It was a wonderful interaction. So I have three actually, sorry. Let's
Okay.
take a little bit of time. I'll quickly wrap it up, but I have 3 points. First thing is that I'm just taking a clue from what he has stopped where he said that the life skills or the training has to have more practical oriented training. ANE, you call it ANE, right? ANE has to take a lead in that to come on the white paper. There are a lot of incidents reported in hospitals related to nursing errors, nursing issues, nurse complications, how effectively a hospital has given a good training to nurses, or how effectively they have brought in a very good engagement program. So ANI should take a lead in creating a white paper and which can be circulated among all the member hospitals, and we can try together to make a difference in the nursing profession. So I urge the organizing committee to please take it up as a request to create a white paper on that. That's one which can be used for trade. Yes.
Getting launched tomorrow.
We are releasing.
It's getting
Oh,
launched
very good.
tomorrow. Our stories are there.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Very futuristic.
I think
Thank
Ms.
you.
Tangan, the first copy will go to Mr. Devanand.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll be
That's
honored.
right.
I'll be honored.
He'll be our advocate.
Yeah. Second thing, this is about my organization. I just want to say something because I've just arrived from London. We have organized a program in London, Aster, maybe the first organization in the country, to constitute a global nursing award.
2 crores.
It is 2 crore for a nurse. So last year it was constituted by a chairman, and the first winner was from Kenya. This time it was
Dubai.
from London. No, it is somebody from London, UK. A nurse. We are astonished with the kind of work that the nurses are doing. The Kenyan nurse was working more on the maternal, side, where she was doing a lot of social work. This particular nurse who won this time, Ms. Elizabeth, she is working more on diabetes research. As a nurse going to research, there are a lot of people who will be doing research, but then she has done phenomenal work in that area. So this is 2 crore was the price money. More than that, it is more of.
In India, as per
No, we got 56,000 applications from 202 countries, and it's an independent panel. As to nobody is involved in that. It's a jury which decides, and ENY was involved. So we don't involve in the entire selection. But then, yes, we were really looking forward. There were Indians, 2 Indians in the final 10 finalists. But unfortunately, we can't influence that. So we are looking forward, for people to get from India. It's our country, so we want to.
why don't we start with an Indian edition?
Indian edition separate. Yeah. That, yes, of course we can look at that. Yes, definitely. That's a good suggestion. We can definitely look at it. Third thing, my co-panelist, Mr. Devi actually told you many stories. I want to end with this story. That's my third thing. So this is like, sorry, with due regard and respect to Devi and my fellow HR colleagues. This is a story, somebody was about to die. You would have heard this story probably. Okay, I don't know, some forums you would have heard. So an HR from hell and heaven, comes to this person. And heaven will say that, okay, you are dying, you come to heaven and see heaven. Then when he goes to heaven, he shows off heaven. So heaven is a very peaceful place, nothing, no activity, nothing. Just a very dull place. Okay, it's very calm and quiet, but very dull. He came back. Then person from hell came. He took him to hell, and he opened the doors to hell. Full party, lot of enjoyments, and life is full of joy. And every day there is celebrations. This thing, this is hell. I did not know. So okay, I made the choice. I am going to hell. He made a choice, and then he dies and he goes to hell. When he went there, completely exactly the opposite what I have seen. It is completely dry land, nothing is there, no enjoyment, people are all struggling like anything, they are being put in oil, all this hot oil, massages and all. Yes, what nonsense is this? You show me a different hell. No, this is actually hell, but that time we were recruiting you. That is the answer. So, as nurses you have 3 options. One, to live in that hell, or leave hell, or make heaven in hell. So heaven in hell is what we are all sitting here to discuss. So I think Annie is making a lot of movements towards that. I'm very happy to hear that the white paper has come. We'll be really interested to read that. So all the best to the good work that you're doing. We'll together make that movement, and we will all follow Madam's hospital, what they have done. I will also talk to her to understand. We can also pass it on to our senior team, and whether we can imbibe the same thing. Thank you. Good luck.
Great.
Just 30 seconds.
A quick wrap up, please.
I'm glad that ANEICON is coming to an agreement of this, getting a technology platform, I think in various forms and shapes. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to do that. So thanks to everyone.
Quick one. A Brahmin without a secretary can't qualify to be a priest, right? A horse without the hoof nails can only jump, it can't gallop. No organization, forget about the panel members, can't survive without nurses. No organization, right? And this bondage, this happens This happens only with trust. So 2 lines on trust before I wrap it up. जो पत्थर चोट खाकर टूट जाता है वो कंकर बन जाता है. जो पत्थर चोट खाकर टूट जाता है वो कंकर बन जाता है. जो पत्थर चोट खाकर सह जाता है वो शंकर बन जाता है. Thank you so much, Annie, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Grateful.
Well, I think we've had an interesting panel. I think from this, the takeaway is that each and every organization, each of these members would contribute to the growth and welfare of the nursing profession, because there is a bond, there is this workforce that is critical to outcomes, and I think everybody agrees upon that. So what is left upon us is my appeal, my message to the very young people who enter the profession. While I think you have greener pastures and aspirations to go abroad, you must know that India is now poised to become one of the largest economies of the world, and we are providing great health care. While you wish to go, I think you need to spend some time in this country and build this profession as the tricolor adorns this beautiful sky and flies with pride as we celebrate the Amrit Mahotsav. And 25 years down the line, I think all that we as leaders set upon as ANI members should be legitimized and legally embraced by the younger generation, because we might be retired and gone, though we would continue to drive our organization and our association with great passion, our profession with passion. So ladies and gentlemen, the takeaway is that each and every nurse should be clinically competent, socially sensitive, ethically engaged, should strive for safety, should have a quest for quality, and should work without fear or favor, so that the larger good of the organization prevails. Thank you. Thank you to the wonderful panelists I've had the pleasure to work with.
Thank you, all the eminent speakers, for such an energetic panel discussion. I now request all the dignitaries to kindly pose for a photo at the photo corner.
While they are taking the photograph, I have a very small announcement. This is our Dr. Jyoti Clara Michael.